I am so happy because I just uploaded my first ever documentary to this YouTube channel. It's about my dad. He had a near-death experience when I was 1 year old. It was quite an emotional project for me to make, but it feels really good to share it with all of you. And if you want to maybe go check that out before or after this video, then please feel free to do that. But yeah, this being my first ever solo documentary, I definitely learned a lot of things, which I'm hoping to share with you in this video. So with that being said, let's jump right into it with number one. For this specific project, I filmed it while I was visiting my parents in South Africa. I live in New York City, so I only had a very limited time frame in order to film with my dad while I was down there and, in amongst just trying to actually enjoy my time with them. And I think that was actually super helpful that I had that unintentional limitation, because believe me, if I had the opportunity to just keep on filming more and more and more and more and more with my dad, I absolutely would. And you don't want that because you want to actually finish your projects. Now, I know to not stress yourself out goes without saying, but at least for me, I was surprised how easy it was for me to stress myself out. But I guess that shouldn't be a surprise because I treated this project way more casually than I probably should have. I told myself I was just going to film an interview with my dad while I was visiting my parents. Maybe I would make something out of it. I didn't know because I hadn't planned these things beforehand. I was kind of just going with the flow, and that can work. That can, work for some people. But I think for me, I definitely should have spent some more time figuring out what I wanted this project to be about, because it being about my dad, I think I placed an unnecessary weight on my shoulders to tell his story and, tell it to the best of my ability. And in the end, I actually ended up really hurting my back, and I think it was stress related, and it caused me to be able to film less, which actually really sucked and just affected my time there in general, so bringing that stress with you onto your shoot and just into your everyday life, it doesn't belong there, So finding a way to mediate your stress is not just going to help you have a better end product, but also is just going to allow you to have fun while you're filming. And probably the best way to mediate stress is to make sure your pre-production is in check. Now, we all know how important story is. Story is king. And as I was saying in my last point, I didn't plan what I wanted this to be about. I was too casual and I didn't spend enough time, or really any time, honestly, in pre-production to figure this out. I guess I told myself that this was going to be more of a creative, spontaneous learning experience. And I guess it was, because I learned a lot of things and now here I am talking about them. So when you're in pre-production, be sure that you get to know your character. Do a pre-interview with them. Ask them questions. Figure out your story before you do the interview. Because if you just film things for the sake of filming them and you tell yourself you're going to figure it out later in the edit, believe me, that is not the way to do it. Because I was making this of my dad, I thought I didn't need to do any of that. I could just have a long interview with him and stuff would naturally come up. And I suppose in a way it did, but I was left with a 3.5-hour interview, which only made the editing process way more of a headache and a lot less concise than it should have been. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. So yeah, the text-based edit. If you haven't heard of the text-based edit, you need to use it because trying to cut down a 3.5-hour interview is just, I just want you to envision that for a second. You're looking at your timeline and you're making all these cuts, you're going, yeah, this is a great cut, this is great. And then you get to I'm not gonna get into it too much because there are a ton of other videos you can watch about how to do a text-based edit, but trust me, you need to go do it. Even if you're not editing your own project, it still is really useful to work on as a director. So just go do that and save yourself the headache of trying to work it out all yourself. And I guess this one only applies to the editors watching, but if you are editing your own project, be sure that you're showing it to other people and do not edit it alone. I thought that I could edit this all myself, so I sat down at my desk, I edited for, I don't know, months, and then I looked at it and I just thought, I'm going insane. I need other people to see this because I just don't even know what I'm looking at anymore. I don't know if it's good, like, you know, so getting other people's opinions is crucial when you're making your own documentary and you're editing it solo. And yeah, speaking of editing, when you are sharing your drafts with other people, they don't need to be polished. In fact, your drafts should be ugly. I don't know why, but I guess I actually do know why. It's the perfectionist in me, but you know, when I was gonna share a draft with some people, I thought, I can't share this with them. You know, it's not graded, there's no audio. So I spent so much time grading, adding audio, doing a bunch of sound design, looking for music and all of these things just to send through a rough draft. And honestly, that was so much time wasted because once I showed these people, they came back with feedback and I agreed with it. And I thought, well, I have to change these things now. So a lot of that work that I did was all just undone. And yeah. So don't be shy and make sure your drafts are ugly and send out rough drafts sooner rather than later. Don't feel that you have to finish the project before you can share it with someone. You know, get those opinions as early on as you can, and that's really gonna help you in the long run. Do not forget to have fun. If you decide to make a documentary on your own, that is a lot of responsibility. And as I said before, it can be stressful, it can be overwhelming. But if you decide to tackle something yourself, you should try to have fun with it. You know, remember that it doesn't have to be that serious, especially if it's a project that you're trying to learn on or you're trying to just have fun with. And just be sure to finish it, whatever it is. Because I know it's easy to want to give up and to want to just start a new project instead. But trust me, just finish it, get it up, and move on to the next thing. Because that's the only way you're gonna learn, and that's the only way you're gonna get better. We have to make mistakes so we can learn from them.
Yeah.